did you have it planned out that when you resign as a teacher, these are the steps that you're going to take?
Before you undertake a journey, you need to map out where you want to be. If you can break down your journey into manageable steps, that in 3 years' time, this is where I imagine I'm going to be. In 5 years' time, this is where I aspire to be. And the other low level, but a great option though, it is savings and credit schemes.
Savings and credit schemes.
Yes, we need to look deep into ourselves and determine where we want to go in the context of what we see around. The challenge of youth unemployment is real.
Yeah. Just the other day, I bumped into my 13-year-old self. A buoyant fellow whose positive energy I can no longer identify with. I mean, the glint in his eye translates into a seasoning garden of dreams, and it seems as if nothing in this world can ever corrupt its bloom. Well, I assume that's all before he could truly understand the scares of reality, how so much years invested, it could result into a degree accumulating nothing but debt. And I bet that's before he even started drowning in debt. In fact, petrol hikes, inflation spikes, and all the likes were not a thing on his mind. In his mind, too many ideas swam like fish in the sea, but the loan sharks long devoured his net worth. Now the cost of living is leaving us grieving, and believing in your dreams does not make any sense, especially when bank balances reflects the cost of buying into a bunch of fallacies that will never bring any change. Wait. Don't you think we can perhaps rearrange the status quo, create our own employment, and that's for sure a way of saving the economy from falling like how social media fellas do on a pile of crates? Let us recollect our dreams, also consider plantations and minerals, for they too can make youth unemployment so ephemeral. But it all begins when you and I choose to open discussions about youth unemployment. Beautiful people, that's exactly how we open up the final edition of Open Discussions Youth Unemployment. I'm your host, the Silent Writer, and this is Open Discussions, a platform curated by Alliance Francaise de Mbabane to address socio-economic issues, current affairs, and everything in between. Well, as you know, I'm never alone, never will be. I'm with the amazing, prestigious Mr. Mandla Luphondvo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Gosi. How are you doing?
I am amped up. Thank you for coming. It's so amazing to have you.
It's good to be here as well.
Indeed, indeed. Now, following your career, we've seen a lot of posts, a lot of adverts about vacancy alerts, spots, and everything which is related to employment. So that is pretty much we had you on this show. How relevant is that? But before we get into everything else, we'd love to know, perhaps, who is Mandla Luphondvo?
All right, thank you, Nkosi. Great question. I was born and bred in Bulembu. You would know that a couple of decades ago, there used to be an asbestos mine. Yeah. Initially called Havelock Mine. Okay. And then there was a transition, I think in 1990, it transited to Bulembu Mine. Yeah. Later, HVL Mine. So that's pretty much where I was born, and I did all of my schooling there, from primary school to high school. Then upon completion, I went to the Swazi College of Technology, where I pursued a diploma program in business studies. So I started out as a teacher, essentially. Oh, okay. So midway through, I did well as a teacher, but midway through, I felt that I was not for numbers, because there was accounting, there was mathematics, and I felt that given a chance to grow, given a chance to advance, I will not be thoroughly comfortable with figures. And then I had to make a call. After teaching for a space of 4 years, I resigned from teaching, and then I started pursuing something that I felt was close to my heart. Yeah. And then I started off with pursuing a certificate program in public relations, then graduated into a degree program in communication science with the University of South Africa, UNISA. Since then, I've practiced communication, I think, most of my professional life. I've done development communication. I've done advocacy communication because I've previously worked with SWAGA, the Swaziland Action Group Against Abuse based in Manzini. I've worked with World Vision and a faith-based international NGO that's looking at supporting households to develop sustainable development programs. And lots food security programs as well. So I've also worked with the National Response Council on HIV and AIDS, NACHA, as head of communication and information before I shifted to MTN Eswatini. So I've been pretty much exposed to the different branches of communication, development communication, advocacy, behavior change communication, disaster, reputational, all the stuff.
Basically, the portfolio is way overflowing. But now I just want to understand from moving from this sector to the other sector, was it maybe a planned step? Was it really something that you had in mind, or the moves were spontaneous? Did you have it planned out that when you resign as a teacher, these are the steps that you're going to take?
Great question. When I set out to retire from teaching, prematurely though, a lot of people said I had made a mistake, or I was making a mistake, because they said I was moving away from job security and venturing into the not-for-profit sector. You would know that in the NGO sector, you know, contract renewal sits on donor funding availability. If there are no donor funds that are available, then your contract, even if you're exceptional in what you do, without donor funding, you're doomed. So I had to take that leap of faith because I had already figured where I wanted to be. Because that's important. Before you undertake a journey, you need to map out where you want to be. If you can break down your journey into manageable steps, that in 3 years' time, this is where I imagine I'm going to be. In 5 years' time, this is where I aspire to be. In 10 years' time, this is where I see myself. So it was a well-calculated step. I didn't want job security at the time. Whilst it's a good thing, but that was not my priority. My priority was exposure. So I knew that by migrating from teaching into the not-for-profit sector, I'll get a lot of exposure. And indeed I did. I flew for the first time whilst working for an NGO, and I've been to over 12 countries, you know, courtesy of not-for-profit organizations.
Not-for-profit,
So it's one of the things that I had targeted, that I want to be exposed. I want to open my mind. I want to broaden my horizon. I need to be exposed to different things in the world, and the NGO sector was the best place for me to start to grow and ground myself in communication and in just understanding the world as it is, the issue of human rights, lots of things.
A lot of lessons that you pick alongside the way. But now let's talk about the guidance. Did you have any guidance while you were mapping your, while you were orchestrating your map? Did you have any guidance, maybe mentorship programs that you had?
When I got into the NGO space, I had people I was looking up to. And I was guided, of course, by my boss, the current director for SWAGA, Nonhlanhla Dlamini, has played an important role in my professional development. And I remember how, when I had just graduated from driving school, you know, because passing, getting your driver's license and the actual driving are two different things. So she was instrumental in grooming me post-qualification. So, and also contributed a lot to my professional development, encouraged me, inspired me. So it is those kind of things that kept me going. And at this point, maybe I would want to emphasize the importance of mentors, people that would guide you in your life. Because sometimes you'd find that you're navigating virgin land. You're walking through your pounding space that has not been pounded before, or that you have not pounded before. And therefore you need somebody that would handhold you, somebody that would guide you, somebody that would encourage you. Because sometimes it gets scary. I remember how at the lapse of my initial 3 years at SWAGA, I was worried worried sick. My contract, is it going to be renewed? What if it's not renewed? I can't imagine myself going back to the classroom to teach.
Tell me about that.
I had already dropped the chalk and I was not willing to go back there.
Yeah.
So, and then I said, you know what, because of the skills that I've acquired here, I think I can use them as stepping stones to my next job. So I needed to be brave. I needed to take calculated risks. I needed to be intentional in what I was doing. I was very dedicated, and I made sure that I acquired lots of skills. In the process. Because much as at Swaga I was predominantly doing education, program-related, public education, training, and a bit of PR. I was also exposed to counseling, which was quite an experience for me. Not entirely new, because from my teaching background, I did a bit of psychology. So it was sort of a build-up on what I had acquired from teacher training. So I thought, you know, with these skills, I should be able to find an alternate job, even if the contract is not renewed here.
You know, I'm keen to learn what was it for you that made you stand out, apart from the fact that you were brave, apart from the fact that you took a couple of steps out of leap of faith. But definitely that is what we'll get into after the ad break. Beautiful people, you are still tuned to Open Discussions and speaking about youth unemployment, an issue which definitely is one which touches young people all over the world. But this is where you'll get all the information. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back from the ad break, beautiful people. Thank you once again for joining us. If you just tuned in, you can find this discussion ongoing on our social media platforms at Alliance Francaise _Mbabane on Instagram and Alliance Francaise de Mbabane on Facebook. Don't forget to click the subscribe button, click that notification bell so you know everything that's happening here at Alliance. Visit our YouTube channel for that information. Now, we are still on it, talking about youth unemployment, zeroing into actually financial literacy, still joined by Mr. Mandla Luphondvo. Now, you speak about how your focus was way beyond job security. I want to know what exactly was the drive to look beyond job security. I mean, we need money every day. It's either when you wake up, it's either you make money or you spend money. You know, so what was it that made you look beyond job security and instead volunteer or spend much of your time serving in NGOs?
Initially, you know, when you are young, you don't have a lot of skills, you don't have a lot of experience. And therefore, you need to be intentional in acquiring experience. And how do you get experience? You make certain decisions, critical decisions that I'm plunging into the space because I expect to acquire 1, 2, 3. So calculated directions, calculated risks. So I needed experience. I needed to broaden my horizons. I needed something challenging. I needed to understand a lot of things. How do you mobilize resources? How do you engage donors? How do you implement projects? And how do you evaluate projects? How do you ensure that a project that you've successfully implemented continues to get funding? And those are the sort of lessons that I couldn't acquire as a teacher. But to its credit, I think teaching helped me a great deal in terms of grounding my public speaking skills, because that's pretty much what you do on a daily basis. So you get used to speaking to people, standing in front of people. And that's what I take with me as one of the pluses that I acquired as a teacher, that it grounded me as a public speaker. And if you look that with communication, which is my core business, so it sort of dovetails neatly, nicely.
Indeed.
So what I did as a teacher, I don't despise. I take it with me wherever I go. Which is why at Swaga I started off as a program officer responsible for education. So you see, I'm fusing that experience with my current role.
Yeah.
I've continued to do that in my professional development. I don't throw away what I've acquired.
Every lesson is a puzzle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every qualification is important. I build on top of the other. And when I get a new qualification, I understand how it links to my initial qualification.
Yeah.
So because that's important. I hear a lot of people saying, yeah, I want to restart, I want to go back to Form 4, and I don't entirely support that.
Yeah.
You know, look at where you are.
Okay.
If you already have a skill, you're a young person, you already have a skill, you're a dressmaker. Look at how you can build on what you have. Don't always start from zero.
Yeah.
You are not going to move, you're not going to grow. Look at what you have, build on what you have, then you will move and you will appreciate that progress yourself. Because before other people appreciate the progress that you're making,
you have to appreciate it yourself.
It is important because you are you, there is no other you.
Definitely.
So, yes, so you need to build on that.
Use the skills that you have and start where you are. But now, if you were maybe to give your comment looking at the current situation, looking at the maybe the landscape, what would you say about young people? Are they vibrant? Are they falling onto the right avenue? What's your comment?
I think young people are vibrant. They're exposed to a great deal of information than we were at our time. So they are in a better state to make a difference, to improve their lives. They have access to people, to professional people. They have access to different role models. Sometimes at our time, when you grow up, the only model you'd see was your teacher, the closest nurse around. And then at a distance, maybe a doctor. But you know, some of us, you'd go for a while without seeing a doctor, even when you're sick. You know, so the advantage today for young people is that you have a lot of professionals that you can engage, you can look up to. In the past, it was difficult to engage a professional as a young person. But today, schools even have programs, career guidance, fairs, you know, career
that link
fairs.
them with the professionals.
Exactly. So that you have a sense, what does it require to be a medical doctor? What subjects do I need to master? What interpersonal skills do I have? What other softer skills do I have to acquire so that I excel in that field? And then loop in social media. Social media has made it possible for us to engage with people which we would not on a face-to-face basis. So that this is another opening that I think young people are privileged to have. You don't need to know me from a bar of soap. You can just drop me a message on Messenger, on Facebook, and then we can start a conversation.
Which is actually how this conversation actually began, you know, with a message that you got on Facebook. And speaking of the social media, I've been following your feed, I've been following your updates. You post a lot about vacancy alerts. Can you tell us a bit about that? Maybe where you get the info and how you've had reception, how are they meeting your posts?
Actually, this idea, when I started, I wanted to monetize this idea.
Okay.
So, but something happened. There's a development that happened at work. There's a product that the company was rolling out that had to do with vacancies. So I had to hold back because I couldn't compete with my employer. So it then continued to be a free service. But I'm still happy to do it as a free service.
As a free service.
You know, because I acknowledge that it's not every day that, and it's not everybody who can afford to buy a copy of a local newspaper and identify job opportunities. So it is sort of trying to meet people halfway so that we all have access to opportunities. You know, what you do with those opportunities, it's entirely up to you. But I think it's fair to be exposed to the opportunity that there is a job there. And that space has actually grown, and it's something that I'm passionate about. I'm happy to do it. on a daily basis. You find that in a day I post 3, 4, 5, or even more posts.
And you are so consistent. You are very consistent.
Best. I do my best. Just last night I was posting a bunch. I think it's a collection of around 4 or 5 posts. From
so how's the reception? Are they really following up on the jobs, or maybe they're liking, forwarding, and that's it?
Yeah.
Have you had maybe comments of people who are sharing testimonials that they've got the job?
Exactly. If you look at the recommendations section of the page, there are some who have been assisted to get placements, to get jobs, and some have gone further to write testimonials.
Yeah.
You know, some have called me, some have verbally expressed it.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that that page is followed by parents as well, who take the lead on behalf of their children to look for jobs, to assist them identify job opportunities. So they like the page, they provide feedback, and some of it is ad hoc. You know, maybe you're in town and you meet this random person, and then they begin to, as you converse, they begin to say, yeah, I follow your page, and we are still hoping for those who are not employed yet. We're still hoping for
to be employed. But now I want to take you back to the dressmaker you made an example about. Let us say maybe someone sees the post, but they cannot relate to that. However, as you said, they can still start where they are and build on top of whatever skill they have. But in order to maybe plan out a clean foundation, you definitely need financial literacy. You need to understand how to manage the cash flow. Maybe before we get into deep, I can maybe throw the question over to you as to what exactly is financial literacy?
Maybe before we actually get into financial literacy, let's talk about literacy.
Yeah.
You know, literacy speaks of the ability to read and write. You know, but in the digital age, literacy is more than just about reading and writing. It is about an ability to utilize digital technologies, social media, to communicate, to engage, to interact. Because you need to know the functionalities. If I want to talk to this person, as a private conversation, this is what I need to do. Inbox, you know, DM. You know, but if I want to talk to this person in an open space, then I post on the timeline. You know, things like that. So that's digital literacy. But when it comes to financial literacy, it means you are able to, you understand what money is, and you are familiar with how it is managed, how it's generated, and how it's used, and how it is multiplied, how it's increased. Because then you are not just a touch point for money. At least you shouldn't. You know, you need to know how to handle money. So for me, financial literacy, without providing a textbook definition, it has to do with understanding how to manage resources, how to acquire financial resources, and how to manage meaning using, saving, investing. So it's a pregnant expression. If I say manage, it has lots of elements that go into management.
Now you're speaking of a point which I can verily say is my first time hearing it, but it's so interesting and it is self-explanatory, being a touch point of money. A lot of us, or rather a lot of you guys, are a touch point of money. Now I want to know what's your experience. Let's speak about your experience with money. What's your worst and your best experience with money, where you've lost or maybe where you've made a lump sum?
I have a couple of negative experiences with money, because we need to appreciate that experience, it's a great thing to have. But where does experience come from? Experience comes from making mistakes. When you're experienced, you know what not to do. And how do you learn what not to do? It's because you did it. And once you did it, and then you learned, no, I shouldn't have done this. So I have had a number of negative experiences with money. There was a point where I bought multiple cars at the same time. And it was an impulse decision.
Okay.
And at some point, one of the cars was almost repossessed. But
Yo.
I did my best to make sure that I cleared that debt.
Yeah.
It was a struggle.
Yeah.
I had to dig deep.
Uh-huh.
So that what lesson then can we pick from there? Impulse buying. You know, when you buy, think it through. Do you really need it, or you want it? And don't say you want to need it.
Because there are situations like those. I want to need it.
So it's either you want it or you need it, meaning needing because it's foundational, it's key, it's important, it's critical. You want it.
But would you say self-love is critical? Because self-love, I need to pamper myself a bit. You know, that's a need.
It is important, but it needs to have parameters.
Well,
you can't just
we'll
say
get into those parameters later on.
Yeah, you can't just say I need a Mac. So regardless of whether I can afford it, it's in the name of self-love. It doesn't work that way. So you need to set parameters and understand what you can afford and what is it that you cannot afford, so that you don't make decisions that are going to plunge you into debt.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes a trap. You find yourself trapped in that cycle of debt where you rob Paul to pay Peter, you rob Peter to pay John. You know, it becomes a cycle, an uncomfortable cycle. Then you don't want to meet certain people in town because you owe them and you're not ready to pay them back because you don't have the money.
And another uncomfortable cycle is going to yet another ad break, because boy, I wish we could just flow into these conversations all the more. Nonetheless, we need to pay our dues. Beautiful people, stay tuned. We are going right into an ad break and getting into youth unemployment, all the ethics which you need to know. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the ad break, beautiful people. We are still at it once again. Youth unemployment is the topic of the day, and this is Open Discussions, a platform curated by Alliance Francaise de Mbabane. And as you know, the conversations do not end here. The conversations are also open on our social media platforms at Alliance Francaise _Mbabane on Instagram, Alliance Francaise de Mbabane on Instagram. Beautiful people, why not, why wait instead of just jumping straight into how exactly can we make that money? Mr. Luphondvo, now we've spoke about and maybe deciphered what financial literacy is. Perhaps someone at home has an idea of what exactly it is, but now the question is, how do I start out? How do I take a leap of faith, or maybe not a leap of faith, but how do I leave this comfort zone and make money? What would you advise?
Yeah, thank you for that great question indeed. The first thing we need to understand what money is.
Okay.
Money is not currency. It's not lilangen or emalangen in a sense. Money is value.
Okay.
You know, that's why there's this lousy definition for money, that money is what money can buy. You know, you don't define a word by also using it.
By using the word,
which is why I'm saying it's a lousy definition. But you need to understand that we need money to acquire certain things, so that money becomes a mode of transfer, a unit of transfer, a measure of transfer. You need it so that you can acquire certain valuables, certain properties, certain items. So when you understand that, and then it shifts your perspective. If I buy a bar of soap, and then I leave it outside, it's exposed to the rain and it's messed up, that's money. It's not a bar of soap.
That's money gone into waste.
So you need to first have that appreciation, because it helps you each time you spend money to acquire something. You make sure that you keep it well, you handle it well, you manage it well. That demonstrates a broader understanding of money, because if you don't manage it well, sooner than later you'll have to go back to the shop to buy the same thing from which you should be benefiting, but because you messed it up, you were reckless, you were not careful, So it's like you keep filling in the same pit, and it means you're not progressing.
Yeah.
You know, if you buy yourself a nice shirt or T-shirt or a sweater, you know, make sure that you take care of that, so that you keep using it for longer, and you delay your visit to the shop. Then you are demonstrating an understanding of money, that it's not just the currency, but it's the valuables that you're able to acquire, and so that the currency is just a medium of exchange. Yes.
Now let's talk about managing money. Let's talk about how exactly I can make the money last longer in my hands. What exactly should last longer in my hands? Is it the money or the value? I mean the valuables.
As best as you can, both, if you can.
Well, it is an exchange, so at some point something has to leave my hands.
Something has to give. You know, sometimes not that sometimes, it is important that in life you need to have priorities.
Okay.
Clearly, there are a lot of things that we want to do. There's a lot of things that we want to acquire.
Yeah.
There are goals that we want to achieve. So the moment you have money, you have a million things that you want to do.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? So you need to learn to prioritize. Prioritize means you need to postpone certain gratifications.
Yeah.
You know, I want this, but it can wait. So that gives you an opportunity to focus on what matters the most.
Yeah.
And focusing on something that would make the most difference, something that's going to take you a mile. You prioritize that. And the nice to haves, you can have them at the bottom of the heap. You know, you can have it there once in a while, as people generally say that when they get paid, they go out for lunch to have fun. That's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
Because we're not suggesting that you need to deny yourself all of the nice things just because you are showing all and sundry that you're good when it comes to management of resources.
Yeah.
It is important that you also motivate yourself, because you are the one, after all, who's generating this money.
Pay yourself first.
Exactly. So you need to do that. And then you go to your prioritized list. And you need to have an appreciation that, as they say, Rome was not built in a day.
In a day.
You're not going to meet all your needs in 1 month. And you're not going to meet all of your needs in 1 year.
Yeah.
Some of your needs need to be phased. You know, they can be achieved over a space of 2-3 years. For instance, if you're pursuing a program of study. So clearly that may not be achieved within a few months, but over time. So if you want to do that, you need to plan for that. Probably you may need to save, put money aside for this program.
Make priorities.
Exactly. Because you know that with this training, you will have skills, you have qualifications that you can use to bring in more resources to yourself.
And you know, the problem is we do make those priorities, but then we get too spiritual, quoting scriptures like the first shall be last. You know, the priorities are then made and inverse, you know. But I want us to include someone who's at home who does not have a dime as yet, because it is easy to make priorities when you know when you'll get the next paycheck. But now you just graduated, you have your degree. Where do you start?
All right. Maybe the first thing I need to demystify is that a qualification is not everything. Okay. You know, when we graduate from tertiary institutions, from college, universities, you think you have lots of information, have lots of textbook knowledge. But that's not good enough. You need experience, which is a mix of mistakes and application of that knowledge. You know, both then would give you experience. So just having a qualification is not good enough. There's so much that you need to understand in the workplace. You need to understand, you need to have a good set of interpersonal skills, interpersonal communication, softer skills as well. Skills that would enable you to deliver on your core responsibilities. For instance, let's say you are a journalist. You need to be good in typewriting, keyboarding skills. That's a softer skills that complements your capacity as a journalist.
As a journalist,
so you need to be aware of the supporting skills, excuse me, that you need to have. Another supporting skill could be a graphic designing skill. It's a supporting skill. Maybe you would want to design, to lay out your stories in a particular way. Not all publications can afford having a full-time graphic designer. So you may find yourself employed by a small publication that's still starting out. So if you can write and lay out your stories, then you're a plus. You know. So then back to your question, I'm starting out and I am not anticipating a paycheck at the end of the month. What you need to understand is that money sometimes can come disguised as an opportunity.
Okay.
Money can also come disguised as time. When you have time, there's something you can do with that time. And one of the things that we are reluctant in this part of the world is providing a voluntary service. You know, it's something that we are reluctant to do, yet it goes a long way in improving, in enriching our CV.
Indeed.
You've just graduated from the local university, and then you volunteer your skills. You identify an organization that's close to where you are, just to cut down on costs, so that you don't spend a lot of money traveling. If it's close by, it's a walking distance, all the better. You go there, you volunteer, and you know what happens? If these guys have an opening,
you're the first one to be called.
They will consider you. They will prioritize you because you chose to serve them without payment. And those are that's why, you know, people from first world countries, they come into Africa and volunteer. Well, one would argue that it's because they have resources, blah blah blah. But they walk away richer because they walk away with experience from Africa. When they go back to the US, you went to Africa. You know, it makes their CV rich because they don't just acquire or reinforce their skills. They also get to learn the culture of the Swazi people and have a broader understanding of the world in terms of how other people look at reality. So providing your skill voluntarily is a great way to start, because then you put yourself in a good stead should an opportunity come through. But secondly, you can also be recommended by the people that you volunteered for another entity, so that you find yourself, you know, getting a heads up that there's this entity that has this opportunity, and we have a great guy who's doing voluntary service, which is it's an indication of a great attitude, actually. So those are the things that we need to be wary of. And the other one is networks. Networks are valuable. That I know you, it means that there is information that you can access from me that you wouldn't access if you didn't know me.
Indeed.
So that's the other thing that we need to work on. Networking, connect with people, because networks are valuable. They're worth lots of money. So make sure that you connect. We are blessed to live in an era of social media. We can connect with people. You can connect even with prospective employers through LinkedIn, for instance. You know, you can also get connected with people that would alert you that there's an opportunity there. Then pursue it, and then also get support in doing that. So those are the things that fresh graduates could try out.
Could definitely try out. Well, definitely you can connect with a lot of people on LinkedIn. I don't know who you're connecting with on TikTok. Just saying. I'm just saying, I'm a huge fan of those videos, by the way, especially when you guys trip on cases. But anyway, let's talk about how you now manage the money. You spoke about there's a good debt, there's a bad debt, and then there are some debts whereby it's pretty much translated as you are investing. Let's break down to how can you manage your money now that you've acquired the skills, you've acquired the experiences, you've started to make maybe it's not much, but it's good to start and keep you going. How do you manage that money? Because the problem is we earn so little, yet we spend more than what we earn. I don't understand how we get to that, but it is currently the situation. How do we refrain from being touch points of money?
Yeah, just to use this adage, a cliche, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
You have
it is what it is.
limited resources, but you have so many things that you want to
yeah.
do. So the first thing is to limit your appetites. Your priorities, your focus.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing. I can't claim to be an expert on that. Sometimes you lose control and you realize that I've gotten off the rails. But it's something that it's a skill that we need to consistently. I don't want to even say it's a skill.
Okay.
I want to say it's a routine because this is something that we need to consistently do.
Yeah.
Manage our interest, our appetites, so that you don't go all the way. You want to buy all the great jeans that you want to have, the sneakers, and sneakers are expensive. You want to acquire all of those things at once.
Yeah.
You don't have to acquire them at once. It could be you can lay by a pair.
Yeah.
A pair maybe in 3 months, 4 months. If you are really a fan of sneakers, I know people that have a room filled with sneakers.
And another issue that we look as if it is maybe worth or rather tailor-made for adults is the issue of investment. Let us say I've managed to maybe be ahead of my appetite, or maybe I've managed to keep my priorities straight. But the problem is the 50 malangin that I had last month will be still the same 50 malangin even after 3 months. How do I make the money grow?
Exactly, yeah. You have a couple of options. Banking institutions locally would offer you with options like fixed deposit account, where you fix that money, meaning that you don't use it. You don't have access to it for a period of, say, 6 months or 12 months, 1.5 years, 2 years. And then if you don't touch that money, you allow the bank to invest that money on your behalf and make money. And then you get to share. You get a share of that.
Oh, okay.
You can use fixed deposit. That's the first one. But secondly, you can also use investment companies. You have your African Alliance, you have Liberty, you have Old Mutual. You have quite a number of these institutions in Eswatini. So they have different products, portfolios. They have what we call the money market. You throw it in there. They generally have a limit. Maybe it's 5,000 or whatever. And then your subsequent savings, you can still save $300 per month, 500 malangeni per month, but probably your initial deposit is fixed, maybe at 5,000 or 10,000, depending on the product. So once in a month, if you master that routine of putting something aside once a month, every month you do that, and in no time you'd realize that you have accumulated a bit of money, and you can use part of that money to buy the things that excite you. Those good things. And you can also use that money to advance yourself. You can use that money to acquire assets. So it gives you choices, and once you're at the space where you now have choices, it means that you're making good progress.
Definitely.
And the other low level but a great option though, it is savings and credit schemes.
Savings and credit schemes.
Yes,
okay.
Where you throw in money on a monthly basis and get into that cycle, into the routine of putting something aside on a monthly basis. It is important because it inculcates the culture, the routine of saving,
of keeping money,
which is a good skill to acquire. It's a good place to start, even before you speak bank deposits, investments into the money market. But it's a great place to start. And here are the modalities. Generally, when you save, the expectation is that you also borrow from your savings. You borrow against your savings, and the interest, when you pay it back, then is what you accumulate, is what you're going to get at the end of the year. Which means if you have saved 200 malangeni, at the end of the year, you're definitely not going to get 200 malangeni. So that's one way of growing your portfolio, however small. So when you withdraw that lump sum at the end of the year, then you can use it to acquire an asset.
Yeah.
And potentially an asset that will be money generating.
Money generating.
You could start off with a popcorn machine. I'm just making an example. You buy that. So it's a good asset, you know, it generates money on the side. Now popcorn.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
and the money's popping. The money's popping. Well,
exactly.
Let us go and see if we can get ourselves popcorn. Beautiful people, don't go anywhere. We are going for an ad break. Welcome back to the last segment of Youth Unemployment Open Discussions, courtesy of Alliance Francaise de Mbabane. Well, if you've missed this edition, well, no bad luck at all. You can definitely replay it again and again, and be sure to check our previous episodes of youth unemployment and also mental health, which was the very first premiere we shot. Otherwise, beautiful people, this is the last segment. Nonetheless, we are not leaving you just like that. However, we are leaving you with a homework which can be found in the remarks by Mr. Mandla Luphondvo. My good sir, we are so honored once again to have you here, but I have a question. Do you think the older generation is doing justice when it comes to sharing such insightful and thought-provoking information about financial literacy?
Well, I would say yes and no. Yes, because there are some who have been intentional in approaching or stretching their hands to mentor, to coach young people. We see that on social media platforms. I'm also open to coaching and mentoring young people, particularly in the area of communications and public relations. It's something that I've done ever since Adam was a boy, a teenager in the Garden of Eden. So yes, there is a fraction of the seniors who are being intentional in doing this, but you know, for some you need to initiate, and when you initiate, I don't see them turning you down or turning you away. We just need to be intentional and pursue. If somebody has a resource that you think you need, the person is not going to know that they have that resource. You know, they would not know, not unless you initiate. So I'd encourage young people to initiate, to talk to experienced professionals. And most of them should be willing to share this information, because a candle loses nothing by sharing, you know, by lighting another candle.
Very well said.
So, so we just need to be aggressive, you know, get as much skills from senior professionals as we can, because we don't want to lose that. And unfortunately, we are not great when it comes to documentation. And given the time I've spent in communication, I think I should have a book by now that captures some of the key learnings, particularly in the communication space. But I'm hoping that before the close of 2022, I should have a book. I should have published a book. You know, so I think it should be both ways. Young people should reach out,
initiate.
Yes, we should be able to respond to that.
Now, with most schools, we now have practical lessons, or rather mentorship programs at school. But would you say the education system is doing justice when it comes to inculcating financial literacy and commerce-related topics?
I would say that government is fortunate to have not-for-profit organizations that have come to the party. On a small scale, I think government has tried to modify the curriculum just a little bit. I remember during my teaching years, there used to be what we call pre-voc education, pre-vocational education, where you were equipping students, high school students, with something that ordinarily they would be getting in vocational colleges. So I would say that was a good drive coming from government. But we are lately seeing not-for-profit organizations like Junior Achievement, for instance. They are great in inculcating business skills, you know, just introducing students into the entrepreneurial world. And I think it's a good step in the right direction. At tertiary institutions as well, you have institutions like Enactus. You know, they've been great in driving the entrepreneurial spirit, so that these people come out of college or university with qualifications plus the skills that they've acquired through Enactus. So I would say we need more of this, and we need them to be formally registered as companies, as real companies. And we are excited that some of them graduate into real companies, creating real opportunities for these graduates, and a whole lot of other Swazis, you know, to practice, to learn, to grow from these institutions.
Now, with the lessons coming from all ends, coming from all directions, I feel like as the youth, or rather as recipients of the information, it is now, the ball is now in our court. But how do we take the step out of the comfort zone and ensure that there's economic growth in the kingdom?
We need to look deep into ourselves and determine where we want to go in the context of what we see around. The challenge of youth unemployment is real. From an MTN point of view, the observation is that in all the markets that MTN is working in Africa, because MTN is an African brand. It's predominantly an African brand. And the one challenge that stands out like a pimple on a baby's face is that in the markets where the company works, there is prevalence of youth unemployment, which is why through the corporate social responsibility wing of MTN, which is MTN Foundation, the company has been intentional in creating entrepreneurial programs that will stimulate opportunities for young people. I remember how last year, through the MTN Foundation, we started a project at Lunzi, valued at 1.2 million. And what did we do? We assisted these young people, 25 in number, and built a packing house. And we also built tunnels, 3 tunnels, which they're now using to produce tomatoes. So in that way, we did not only avail this opportunity, but we also linked them with NAMBOARD, just to make sure that once the produce is there, then you have a partner.
Outlet.
Exactly, because it's no use having the produce if you don't have the market. So we need to be strategic, have the produce, but have a plan about the produce. And once we have the produce, this is the market where it's going to be sold. These are the standards, the market standards. These are the value add opportunities. How do we add value to tomato? How do we produce tomato sauce? Because the value addition then enhances the value of the produce. So those are the things that we will also need to think about. I am aware that we are encouraging young people to get into business, but they also need to understand the value chain, the processes, how to access the market, and amongst other things, because there is no point in having the produce if you're not able to push it into the market. So those are some of the lessons that we've learned and how we can respond to the challenge of youth unemployment. Make sure that we create sustainable opportunities with clear linkages with the markets, clear linkages with potential buyers. Then it's a great way to stimulate the economy, because the world's greatest economies are economies that have stimulated micro, small, and medium enterprises. It's not these countries with these big companies coming through. But if you strengthen your micro, small,
everyone
and medium
is invited into the party.
Exactly. And everybody can be an employer. I can employ 2 people, you employ 2 people, he employs 1 person, and then collectively we have a solid workforce.
Definitely. Yo, I can listen to you all day, every day. As a matter of fact, I'll be the first one after this show to hit you up with a DM or inquiring or rather requesting mentorship programs. Otherwise, that is it for today, ladies and gentlemen. But before we leave, once again, Mr. Luphondvo, maybe you have closing remarks?
Well, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that make sure that you get guidance, whatever you want to do. Get guidance. And secondly, never stop learning and growing. You will never be too old to learn. You'll never be too old to grow. So don't stop learning, keep growing. You also need to be grounded, you need to be focused, and you need to continue to pursue what you believe is your mission, what you believe is your calling, what you believe is your inclination, what you believe is what you are good at. You need to keep pursuing that because that is where your breakthrough is.
Definitely. That's a ton of nothing but endless knowledge and wisdom. Beautiful people, we have unfortunately come to the last edition of Open Discussions Youth Unemployment. Stay tuned for the next season, which I am so amped up for. It's leadership. It is leadership. It is leadership. I think I'm disturbed by using amped up, which is currently the headline, tagline used by MTN, apparently. But how can they get a hold of you, sir?
I'm available through social media platforms on Instagram, IG, Mandla Hon, and then on Facebook you look for Mandla Luphondvo. I have two accounts. One is personal, just for personal engagement, and the other one is dedicated towards job opportunities and other business opportunities. So both feature as Mandla Luphondvo. So you'll see one is predominantly preoccupied with vacancies. The other one is just for
vacation.
Social chat, yes.
Not vacation.
Yeah.
All right. Otherwise, it has been a pleasure, a really heartwarming one to have you today.
It's been a delight for me, and thank you for having me. Looking forward to interacting with you, with young people outside this platform through social media. Thank you once again.
Definitely. Beautiful people, this is Open Discussions. Stay tuned for the next edition. Follow, like myself and Mr. Luphondvo. Follow, like, and follow, like. Why am I saying the same thing? Follow, like Alliance Francaise de Mbabane. I should get something refreshing after this. It has been an amazing day. Otherwise, from your boy, the silent writer, it's always love and light.